Welcome back to another edition of Nerds on the Block. Today we're going to be discussing Disney's Investor Day again, but this time we're going to focus on the Marvel announcements. And there's lots to unpack. And again, I'm going to do a quick fire of the series announcements from Disney Plus and the movies that we can expect coming down the line for Marvel. We're going to kick things off with some announcements that we already knew of or that were in the works with WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Miss Marvel, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and a series of original shorts starring I Am Groot. And for the new series that got unveiled, we have Secret Invasion, Ironheart, and Armor Wars. The movie front, we learned about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Fantastic Four, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor and Love and Thunder, Black Panther 2, Blade, Captain Marvel 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That was a lot. Is it a bit hot in here? Whew. God damn. Okay, I'm good. So to get things started here, Dexter, out of the series that we do know about, and I'm just going to name three here, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Out of these series, which one do you think is going to be the most compelling to come out of Marvel in the beginning half of 2021?
Yeah, so out of those series that you mentioned, I think WandaVision to me sounds to be the most exciting because I'm curious to see how they're even going to bring Vision back and how they'll explain that, as well as, you know, from what I read online, they're apparently be taking this approach where it's going to be more like traditional sitcoms. So I'm guessing maybe there's going to be that kind of typical relationship between, you know, the wife and the husband, but in this case it's not very typical at all considering it's superheroes. But at the same time, they're going to try and make this show not so superhero-y like most of their shows, and they're going to try and cater to that audience that maybe isn't big superhero fans and kind of just wants to have a show that they can find themselves relating better to.
Honestly, can't go wrong with that choice. I think WandaVision is going to turn out pretty good, and luckily as fans, we don't have long to wait. It's coming out January 15th next year. And for me, if I was answering this question, I'm not going to lie, I would actually choose Loki, just because I love me a good antagonist in a story, and where the events left off in Marvel's Avengers Endgame, I want to see where they go with that character. But next question is actually for Shamar. Is Miss Marvel slated for next fall in 2021? This series, this is a character that is relatively new for Marvel, and its representation is actually very important. So Shamar, I want you to speak on the importance of diversity in the MCU, and what did you think of this casting?
Congratulations, first things first, to Iman Vellani for nailing the role as Miss Marvel.
Woo!
Coming all the way from Markham, Ontario, representing Canada.
Love that.
Amazing work. Can't wait to see you on the big screen. Miss Marvel, another big MCU surprise that's coming to us next fall. And, you know, again, another series by Disney Plus that I couldn't be more excited for. I actually like the fact that it's a series because then we get time to get to know this character and we get to breathe and to see, you know, what makes Miss Marvel who she is. So I'm really excited to see how they treat this character, and of course, you know, how they treat her origin story versus, you know, what they did with Peter Parker, essentially, because, you know, I'm a big sucker for teenage superheroes. I love the whole aesthetic of, like, you know, a teenage character being imbued with superpowers and having to essentially figure out the life lesson of, you know, great power comes great responsibility. Really hoping that we get a little bit of Captain Marvel showcasing in the series. I know that's probably reaching, but I figured, I mean, if she's being inspired by Captain Marvel, then why not have her show up, even if it's for like a few minutes? So that would be really nice to see her show up on screen. Outside of that, you know, this is a really big character representing a lot of different things. Of course, she's Pakistani, so we're getting a lot of representation there, which is very much needed, not only in the industry, but just like as a whole. And of course, she's another female lead character, which is always welcome. We need more characters that, you know, that are diverse and inspire other people to be greater than themselves and to, reach for the stars. So again, congratulations to Iman for nailing this role.
Gotta love the representation that we are getting with Miss Marvel, especially since it's so close to home. But the important thing here is like young girls are gonna have a hero that they can look up to, and that's exciting. For the next question, we're gonna focus on a series that's coming after Miss Marvel, Hawkeye. So this show is gonna be based off the events after Marvel's Avengers Endgame. What I find is really interesting with the Clint and Kate Bishop father-daughter dynamic. Dexter, I want you to speak on like how you think this is going to translate with audiences.
Yes, that's a great question. So Hawkeye, trying to bring in the boundaries of the father and daughter relationship. I think that's going to be great for television and great for audiences. I mean, people love seeing families and television shows, and there's not too many superhero shows that really do have that dynamic of the father and daughter, and that's going to be more or less the whole premise of the show, most likely. So I think that's good for fans, and I think that's good for even for morality purposes, and I'm sure it'll help create some role models to look up after.
Absolutely. All the reasons to be excited for Hawkeye when it eventually comes out next year around this time. December, maybe November, we'll see. Next thing I want to touch on is She-Hulk. We got Tatiana Maslany in the title role in She-Hulk, and we'll actually have appearances from Mark Ruffalo in the series as well. I think this is another thing to get excited about. Again, another woman dominant lead at the forefront. Next thing I want to focus on is What If. This is probably one of the more exciting prospects to come from Marvel next year, and it's actually slated for next summer. So not too long of a wait here, but basically what the what if concept is when you're watching the MCU, what if an event didn't happen as you've seen it in the films? So where they can go with that is absolutely endless. So I'm actually very excited for this series. This question's for you, Dexter. What character would you like to see potentially in What If, or what would you like to see from What If?
If I could pick an animated series for Marvel to work on right now, I would like to see more Deadpool. But for me, it would be more in the mature direction. Like I would want to see like a rated M kind of Deadpool type show, which I know isn't going to happen. So if we're just painting a scenario that I wish I could see, that's what I would prefer. But if not, honestly, I'm fine with most of the animated shows that they could come up with, whether it was X-Men, Spider-Man. It'd be nice to see something though with a more mature feel to it.
Tonally, that would be a dream. For the next bit, we're going to switch gears actually and focus on the films. So Shamar, this question is actually for you. We're going to be talking about Blade. Honestly, as a kid, I remember watching Wesley Snipes, and I still have that version of the character embedded in my skull. So what are your hopes for this film, and where do you want to see them take Blade and this new iteration for the MCU?
So Blade, I mean, where do I begin? I mean, they picked an amazing actor, Mahershala Ali. Couldn't have found a better person to play that character, to be honest. He's got the same likeness as Wesley Snipes. I'm only hoping that he's obviously doing the training that he needs to do, which I wouldn't doubt that's what he's doing to nail the character down packed. As much as I would love Wesley Snipes to be in the movie, he's obviously past his expiry date with this character. But I mean, you never know. He might actually make an appearance in there somehow. At least I'd like to hope so, but who knows? I mean, outside of that, I'm really hoping that they nail this guy's look down, which I trust Marvel will hopefully do that. And they got to keep the fade, man. Like, the man needs to look clean. I'm sorry. Like, that fade was like the biggest thing about Blade, is how this guy's hair was always on point. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the action in the martial art. That's like one of the biggest things. And I'm very curious to see, like, how is it going to differ from the original movies? Like, is it going to be more scarier? Is it going to, like what comic book stories are they going to go back to? Is it going to be an origin story? We haven't gotten anything yet. But I mean, I'm honestly open. As long as they stick to the core elements of what makes Blade Blade, that's all you need to do. Even if it's an original story, just keep Blade as who he's supposed to be. But of course, you know, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Mahershala Ali's, how he personally portrays the character, because, you know, we don't want the character to be too similar to what we got previously. And on top of that, I'm really hoping that we get a couple crossovers with maybe Punisher, maybe Morbius. You know, the sky's the limit. So I'm really hoping for a very fantastic movie.
Honestly, couldn't agree more with everything that you just said. For this next question, we're going to keep it locked on you, Shamar. We're going to touch on Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings, and why this project should be getting more traction than it's actually getting. Why do you think people should be excited for this film?
So another character I'm very excited to see in the MCU is Shang-Chi. As we all know, Simu Liu got casted as Shang-Chi from downtown Canada, as some people call it. And it seems like he kind of just swept that role from underneath everybody's feet and knocked it right out of the park. Very much looking forward to all the martial arts action that's going to be present in this movie. And I'm going to safely assume this movie is going to have arguably the best and the most martial arts scenes that we've ever seen in any MCU film. So really looking forward to that. From the research that I've done, they're doing a lot of stunt coordination and training for this movie, and from the clips I've seen, these guys are going to be the best of the best, so you're not going to see anything better than this. So it turns out that the Shang-Chi movie is actually going to be taking a very familiar route to a familiar movie, Bloodsport. So in Shang-Chi, what's going to end up happening is he's going to be entering a tournament in order to acquire the 10 rings from the Mandarin. So it's going to be a very, very, very martial arts heavy film with all kinds of new characters that are going to be jumping in and basically showing off their fighting skills. So, I mean, what better reason to get into a character than a giant martial arts tournament? So here's hoping that we're going to be seeing some really heavy martial arts scenes.
Well said. For this next bit, I want to touch on Fantastic Four making a comeback. I get it, there might be a few eye rolls that are watching this video being like, oh my goodness, Fantastic Four sucks! And I get it, the last two films weren't received well. So this question actually is for you, Dexter. Do you think the MCU can salvage these characters and make the Fantastic Four cool again?
So yeah, Fantastic Four. I don't see how that's not going to be a great movie. Disney and Marvel together, everything they've really been touching and working on has always been good. The last few that have come out through Fox Studios, yeah, they haven't been the greatest box office successes. I'm sure there's a few different debatable reasons as to why that happened, but I think no matter what, at the end of the day, because Marvel and Disney are working together and because their name is going to be behind this project, that alone is going to make this film sell much more than it had with Fox. But with that being said, even without that being in the equation, I'm sure that they're going to hire the right cast. They're going to try and find the right story that's going to fit with the current audience that is going to be watching it, and I'm sure it's going to do much better than it did before. Maybe it won't do as well as some of their other films, but I'm sure it's going to do pretty good for them.
The faith in this one. You gotta hope. We gotta hope that Fantastic Four can make a serious comeback. For this next question, this is actually for you, Shamar. This is going to be about Moon Knight, which is coming out in 2022. So it's a little bit of a ways out. But what are your expectations for this series, and where do you want to see them take this character, or even handle this character for this series?
So Oscar Isaac is actually a very interesting choice. To be honest, I don't even know who I would have picked to play this person, but I mean, who better than Oscar Isaac, honestly? He's an amazing actor. I basically loved him in anything that he's ever been in. So I'm very curious to see what he brings to the table for a character such as Moon Knight, because he's a very trippy, cerebral character and a very visceral character at that too. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Oscar Isaac actually does bring to the table for this character. I think that with this character, they should honestly take some notes out of the Joker handbook and basically treat him as a character study. He's this guy that obviously went through this very supernatural experience, and because he went through this experience, he started experiencing a lot of mental instability, and I think they can play a lot on that and kind of show us, okay, here's this guy who has these very crazy mental ailments, but at the same time, he's trying to be a good person. He's trying to be a force for good in his own right. And I'm hoping that Disney doesn't take this as an opportunity to water down a character that has so much going for him because again, we're trying to introduce this character to a new audience, and you know, he's a dark character. He's got dark tones, he's got very dark story elements, and I feel like you're doing the character a disservice by watering him down and making him something that he's not. And with a character, with a actor as good as Oscar Isaac, you can't ask for a better person to play off this role. So I'm really hoping that, you know, Disney actually treats the character properly and just hits the ground running with this character.
Agreed. How they handle that character is going to be very important in captivating audiences with Moon Knight, especially a character that may potentially that people haven't even heard of. For this next question, in my opinion, arguably one of the biggest, or if not the biggest announcement from Marvel came from Secret Invasion, and Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson reprising his role, being included in this series. Shamar, what do you think of this project being a series instead of a film, and how do you think that can benefit the project?
Honestly, in general, I'm happy that Marvel has just taken on such an ambitious project. Like, I'll take it any way I can get it. If I had to choose, I would personally prefer them to make like a 2-part, maybe even a 3-part movie, because it has that Hollywood budget that, you know, obviously that we want. But I'm not opposed to the idea of it being a series, because you get to take your time and tell the story and introduce people who are not aware of this comic book story. They can take the time and kind of like, you know, see what these characters are doing, why they doing it, and you get to take your time and really understand why everything is happening. That being said, if the episodes are going to be made at a certain time length, I really feel like it needs to be an hour long. 30-40 minutes is not going to cut it. Like, I don't feel like the episode's going to get anywhere in 30 to 40 minutes. So they definitely need to be an hour long. I know that's asking a lot considering the budget of these episodes, I'm sure, but I feel like they need to be an hour long, and if we can get a full 13 episodes, that'd be great too. Because I mean, we've seen in Star Wars, we've seen in Civil War, like you can't pack so much crisis into 1 hour and a half. You can't do it. So it's either you're making a multi-part movie or obviously a multi-part series. And I'm assuming Marvel learned from their mistakes, learned from the mistakes of probably even Star Wars 2, and figured out that, hey, you know what? Probably better to do it as a series, just because at least we can make everybody breathe. We can let the characters breathe. We can let the events kind of, you know, take their time and boil up.
I think I said preach about 5 times what you just said there, Shamar, because honestly, I think Civil War, out of all their big story arc films, was one of the films that were mishandled. I think that story arc definitely needed more time to breathe, maybe in a series, because I feel like the comic books handled that story arc a lot better than the film did. I definitely want to touch on a few things before we close out this video here. Some projects like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, I think that's going to be really interesting in how they tie that through the events, through the MCU, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, how that will tie in potentially what we were hearing from rumors, if you believe in rumors, that how that can tie to Spider-Man and the multiverse literally imploding in itself. I think that'll be really interesting on how Doctor Strange and potentially other characters making their appearance in potentially a Spider-Man 3, like Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire reprising their roles as Spider-Man. So we're gonna have like 3 Spider-Mans in a film. We're gonna have a Daredevil apparently. We're gonna have all these characters make a comeback, like Doc Ock. Like I'm really excited for this phase. Like as we start to hear more details unfold, I think we're really getting to an exciting place for the Marvel Universe. I also want to shout out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 being directed by James Gunn, making another comeback at that role, even as he got taken off the role at a certain point, which was a little upsetting because we felt like he did such an amazing job, especially with the first one. Second one maybe met with a little bit of a mediocre reception, but I still thought it was decent. But James Gunn's definitely the right man for this job, and we're getting a holiday special as well, which I find will be pretty funny when it eventually does drop. And we have those shorts with I Am Groot. So again, that was our impressions of the Marvel announcements from Disney's Investor Day. What were your favorites? Tell us in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe to Nerds on the Block, and we'll see you next time.
Yo, you still here, dog? Yo, subscribe to the channel, bro. Make sure you hit that notification bell to stay locked on all of our content when it drops.
What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah, bro.
Block these guys.
Seriously, like it's so easy, bro. Just click the button, bro.